What's up, Digilock fam? Welcome back to our Artists to Watch Class of 2021 series. Today we are joined by Zyahbelle. Zyah, we're so excited to have you here with us today. For those who may not be as familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you first got into music?
So once again, my name is Zyah Belle. I am an artist, a singer-songwriter originally from the Bay Area, and actively working in Los Angeles, California right now, and in Portland, Oregon, randomly enough. I got my start in music, honestly, while doing open mics, as boring as that might sound. And it's taken me all over the world. It's been almost a 10-year journey now. So it's been really exciting to develop and grow and just lean into my artistry as I get older.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that. So when did that happen, that open mic, and what was kind of like the moment that you were like, oh, I could do this?
Well, I'll be honest, the moment that I knew that I wanted to do music actually was in high school. And I thought I was going to be a journalist for a long time. And I started doing musical theater. I got the role of Dorothy my sophomore year in high school. And after seeing how people responded to my voice, I was just like, I want to keep doing this. And so from there, that kind of shaped my next steps of after high school, majoring in music and then getting to a point of being like, let's just go ahead and pursue a career. And I started singing in open mics in Sacramento, California, at a place that no longer does open mics, but it's called Pangea Cafe. And I would sing there. I want to say it was like Wednesday nights. And I started singing there. This was maybe 2012, 2011. I started doing open mics, and yeah, I've been doing music ever since.
That's incredible. And both, because as a singer-songwriter, obviously you discovered this and you're like, oh, well, people are reacting well to this. When did you discover the songwriting aspect of it?
I really didn't discover that until later. I feel like that got nurtured through me. I went through a long process of really trying to create what I thought people wanted to hear and create what I felt like was popular. So, in my opinion, my songwriting in the beginning was really trash. I would always make like little jingles and things with my siblings. My mom's a choir director, so I grew up around music a lot, but I didn't really get into songwriting, I would say, until maybe I was like 21 or 22. I just started trying to explore allowing myself to just have an authentic voice instead of just making what I feel like people wanted. And really truly got heavier into songwriting when I turned 25, which is when I had moved to Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's awesome how life just kind of puts everything in place. And it's great that you have been able to kind of not only find your calling, but also develop skills to support that. So that's really awesome. You've also put out 2 projects, multiple singles. You've worked with a wide range of artists. What are some obstacles that you've had to overcome at the beginning of your career to get to where you are right now?
I think one of the biggest obstacles I've had to overcome is comparing myself. I think at the beginning of my career, I was incredibly impatient because I saw what everybody else was doing around me. And oh my God, they're working with this person and I want to do that. And I was always the type of person that my goals were never like local or small. Like it was never like, even though I would have goals of like, oh, I want to perform at this local venue, I always was just like, I want to be at the top or I want to be on the radio. And so when you're just starting music, it's like, come on, girl, like you got to give yourself some time. And I didn't understand that it was all about, relationship building as much as it was about your talent and work ethic. And so that was something that I really had to overcome, was just comparing my journey and thinking that I needed to move quicker within my journey than what I actually needed to.
Yeah. Somebody the other day told me comparison is the thief of joy. And I feel like that's so true because if you start looking at the next person, it never feels like you're going to be doing enough. But if your only competition is yourself, then that's definitely all the motivation you need to get to the next level. That's awesome though. So anybody I've ever met from the Bay is so proud of it. And that's usually like the very first thing that they'll mention in any conversation. I know you recently did a song with Too Short that I believe came out right around the same time that the E40 versus Too Short versus was coming out. What was that moment like for you? And, you know, how did growing up in the Bay shape you as an artist?
That was really dope experiencing that coming out. Yeah, that came out on the joint project that him and E40 dropped after the verses. And I actually met Too Short when I first moved to Los Angeles in 2016. And I met him through Mr. Fab, who's also a Bay Area legend, well-known rapper from Oakland. And it was surreal, but it was like, okay, you got to chill out. Like this is just
Yeah.
happening. And while I was there, living in LA, Too Short was honestly, that's like my family, like, and that feels so crazy to say. Like the teenager in me is like, what? Like Too Short, growing up listening to him on the radio, listening to him when I wasn't supposed to be listening to him because my mom did not approve. And now she's so happy. She's like, my mom still lives in the Bay, and she was bragging to me the other day that her and my aunt went to some like party, like this old folks party apparently. And there was like this electronic jukebox in the party, and it had me and Too Short song on there. And she's like, your aunt played it 3 times. So it feels great. It feels like such a rite of passage to be recognized by somebody who's such a Bay Area legend. And that definitely has shaped my artistry and career in so many different ways. For one, I respect paying my dues, just because I feel like that's just like a thing that you always strive for, being from the Bay. Like you want to be respected by your elders and the artists and the people that have come before you. And then beyond that, like the culture in the Bay is so rich. I credit a lot of my proudness of being a Black woman from all the examples of beautiful Black radical people in the Bay Area. And then my exposure to so many different cultures and types of foods, and just all these different things has been from the Bay. Like my family is a melting pot. And because of that, it's allowed me to just be chill. Like me being from the Bay, you really pride yourself on being chill. Like we love everybody. There ain't no problems until you start a problem. Like we really are. I love that being from the Bay has taught me to just be yourself and not care about who's in the room. Like if you see anybody dancing in a club in LA, they're probably from the Bay or down south or something. Like we like to dance, we like to have fun. And it's really cultivated the free spirit that I have as an artist.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like I said, everybody that I've ever met from there is like, that's their leading character trait is like, yeah, I'm from the Bay and I'm going to let you know the Bay did it first. Whatever it is, the Bay did it first. So I definitely need to make my way out there at some point. I've heard nothing but great things. But it's actually funny you mentioned that tweet about your mom and your aunt, because I saw that. And I love reading your tweets. I think naturally, being that you're a songwriter, that may not be a surprise because I think you just have that wit for it. They're always either like hilarious or incredibly insightful and personal. And you're very transparent about your emotions and how you feel about certain topics. And you do a great job at vocalizing those things. And I can imagine it takes like a certain level of like self-reflection and self-awareness to be able to do that constantly. How does that inform your songwriting process? Like, has there ever been a moment where you're like in the middle of writing a tweet and you're like, wait a minute, this could be a song?
A lot of times I'm like, don't put that. Or, I'll even go back to my tweets or even read other tweets. Sometimes I go on Twitter and just scroll for inspiration for songs.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, from millennials to Gen Z, us growing up within that digital age, we have kind of used Twitter as like our digital diary. And a lot of people don't want to write on a pen and pad. It's easier for them to type because that's just kind of the era that they grew up in. And so, yeah, there's been a couple of times where I'm like, girl, write that down in in your notes, or I'll just, I'll go back to it and be like, okay, I'm gonna just write a song about this. And, either way, no matter how it gets exposed first, if it turns into something, I'm happy, or not. It could just be a tweet.
Yeah, no, for sure. Everybody needs to follow Zyah on Twitter. So we'll definitely have your socials linked so people can check it out. Because again, it's either hilarious or just like, I'm like, damn, that's true. It's a good
That's
point.
pretty much my personality in a nutshell. I'm either absolutely goofy as hell or I'm probably thinking about some deep introspective ass shit. That's just
Yeah,
me.
no, for sure. I can vouch just following you from social media. It's those are definitely the two moods.
Yep.
So it participated in really awesome projects, and notably singing alongside Sir during his Tiny Desk performance. And you were also part of Kanye's Sunday service. How were those experiences for you, and like how did those opportunities come about?
So everything came about very organically. I'll answer that first. The Sunday service experience, I heard about that opportunity through a good friend of mine, an artist, Jazzy. She was already singing with Sunday service before it was something that was um, being largely like recognized and before they were traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and actually before Coachella, I believe, is when she told me about it. And she's like, you know, they are looking to expand. If you're down, we were like at a photo shoot. She's like, if you're down, let me know. I'm like, sure. So they told me about an audition. And it was like this audition that it wasn't advertised what it was for, but I knew
Mm-hmm.
what it was for because of the company that was hiring the singers. I knew that they were contracted for this gig. And so I auditioned. The audition process was kind of crazy, but it was pretty cool. And yeah, I auditioned, got the call back, and then ended up doing the callback audition, which was just like us kind of singing all together with other choir members and them seeing our ability to blend. And from there, I started working with them and was touring for about a year with them. And then actually while on tour, I got the Sir gig. And so I actually met Sir through his brother, Davion. So Sir has three brothers, and two of them do music. Davion and D Smoke does music. And I met Davion a couple years ago, and randomly at one of his shows, like I was playing around singing with my best friend and she knew him. And he's like, could you guys sing background for me tonight? And I'm like, sure. So I sang
Wow.
background for Davion. And for like a song, I think he sung like Genuine. He sang like some songs that I knew. So I was like, oh, that would be easy. That would be fun. Like I love singing. So
Yeah.
and so Sarah was looking for background singers. He's like, oh, for sure, we'll get Zyah. And so, yeah, got to do Afro punk with him first. And didn't get a chance to do the tour, but was touring with Kanye at that time. And then got a chance to come back and then do Tiny Desk with him. And that was absolutely amazing. Like they're honestly, Sir, his family, Davion, like they're all so amazing. And they're just some of the most talented, like kind-hearted people you'd ever meet. So it was really dope working with him.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I know just from listening to Sir, also Tiffany Boucher, his cousin, who's also incredibly talented. Obviously, the other backup singers for that Tiny Desk were his mom and his brother.
Yep.
So it's just insane that families can just be so genetically just
And
talented like
yeah,
that. But
his
yeah,
mother is incredibly talented. She's gotten to work with so many legends in this industry. And when you hear her story, you're like, oh my God, like you and your husband literally birthed some of the most talented people. And then you go back and you're like, oh, it's just the entire family that knows how to play and sing. It's amazing.
it's everybody. Well, I think that's such a good example, both, the Tiny Desk and Kanye Sunday Service of not only having the talent and skill set and being in the right place at the right time, but also showing up for those things and putting your best foot forward because clearly it opened up a lot of doors for you. So that's really great.
Yeah.
So your latest single with Wonderful is one of my favorites. It gets stuck in my head all the time. And I noticed that you're doing a Black Girl Sings video series to go along with these songs. So where did that idea come about? And they're beautiful videos. Like you shoot them outside in nature. Your vocals are insane. So what was kind of the inspiration for that?
You know, the inspiration originally started very small, of just like, let's shoot some really amazing content. I work with such a talented videographer and director named Riley Brown. And I'm like, Riley, let's just, shoot something of me just like, originally we were supposed to like set up in my apartment and then also do another shoot like in the forest, like We didn't have any true direction. There was no intention outside of let's create just some beautiful, aesthetically pleasing content. And I'm like, I just want to sing a cappella because,
Yeah.
you know, people are doing a lot of those videos of them singing in the studio or with the mic, especially since COVID. Artists are trying to figure out ways to be, you know, innovative with performing. And so I'm like, I want to sing an a cappella because normally everybody sings, you know, being accompanied by at least a guitarist or a backing track. And so we shot that, and I just typed that as the title of it on Twitter when I posted it. I just put a Black girl sings in an enchanted forest because on another end, outside of being an artist, I was talking to you before our interview about how I do like digital marketing and project management and all that stuff. And like, I'm such a nerd for those things. I'm such a nerd for like what attracts people to certain things. And one thing that I found out was that when it comes to social media, the moment that you put certain words to prompt people to do something, they don't do it. Statistically, your numbers instantly go down. Whenever you're like, check this out, buy this, da, 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 da. Consumers, you know, listeners, they like to feel like it was their idea. Everybody likes to feel like they're the ruler of their universe, you know? And so I was like, what is a cool way that I can describe this video that makes it just feel like I'm just kind of like, just putting it out there, no big deal. And so I'm like, it looks so enchanting. And one of my good friends, Buddha, he mixed it and added even more like birds chirping and all of that. And I'm like, this is so enchanting. So let's just put that. And then when we shot the second one, I'm like, we're just going to call it a Black girl sings. Like wherever I sing, that's what we'll do. Like a Black girl sings, da, 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 da. Like we don't need to have it be so like zyahbelle singing, and you'll figure out my name. You'll probably want to know whose song this is afterwards. And so I find that with a lot of things I do creatively that the more that I just do things freely, that I'm just like, I just want to do this. It seems fun and cool. Things just come together, and then it becomes this bigger intentional thing than what I even thought it would be.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy to know that that was like the intention, that it just came organically and you're just like, you know, I just want to do this and see how it goes. But branding genius, because it really is that one of those things that when people are like, oh, check out, you know, my new song, you're like, okay, yeah, cool. But when you posted that, I saw it when I went up on your reel and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And it's just like you sitting in the middle of a forest. And I'm like, well, what is this? And then I just ended up watching the whole video and I was like, this is incredible. And I hadn't seen anybody do something similar like that. So it was really great, just like creatively to be able to do that. So definitely looking forward to the next ones that you do. Is that something you plan on continuing for other songs or releases that you do?
Definitely. It's something I want to plan to continue to do, especially as much as I like to travel, as much as I love nature. I love just being in beautiful places. I'm definitely going to keep doing it. The only thing that's stopping it right now is the fact I'm going to be releasing more music. And so I want to get some new music out before I start doing them again. But I don't see it being anything that I would stop. I feel like now that it's going, it can expand in so many different ways.
For sure. And it's something that you started again organically and it's just kind of become its own thing. So we're definitely looking forward to watching that grow because I definitely enjoy it. As a singer-songwriter, you know, that frequently collaborates with other artists, what are the differences between collaborating with somebody else and kind of executing their vision as opposed to doing work for yourself and working on your own music? Do you find one harder to do than the other?
No, I feel like they're both like different muscles. I think that whenever I'm collaborating with the artist and maybe I have to write something specifically for that artist, it feels kind of like a math problem or like something that I have to solve because it's like, okay, cool. How can I go into here and, you know, actually execute whatever this is? Or how can I make sure that I can get into the idea or the viewpoint of this person that I'm writing for? Or even if it's collaborative, just like sometimes I go in the studio with different artists and we're just collaborating, you know,
Yeah.
and that's how a lot of songs get birthed and get sent out to different artists, is just people in a room creating. And that's amazing too, especially when you're with like-minded kindred spirits. It just feels like fun. It makes me feel like a kid again, like I'm on the playground whenever I'm like collaborating with other artists. It feels like a fun game of tag because everybody's like, ooh, and then this, and you're like, oh my God, and then we could say this. Like those sessions are so much fun. And then sessions by myself can either feel just as fun sometimes. Like when I wrote I Think That I Love You, it was so much fun. Like that little talking that I'm doing in the beginning, I was literally being goofy. And I because when I turned on the beat, sometimes I do this thing of kind of like what they call on TikTok of blind reacting. Sometimes I blind songwrite where I'll just pull up beats and I won't listen to them just yet. I'll load it up in my in Logic, and I'll just turn it on and see what comes to mind as soon as I turn it on. And so that beat, I think maybe I previewed a couple seconds, but I was like, I'm gonna just load it up and see what comes to mind when I start recording. And it made me think of if you ever heard Tonight Is the Night, that song, Tonight is the night. And in the beginning, she's talking the whole beginning of the song. And that's what they used to do back in the days. They would be like, I met this man the other day. And they would preview you of what the song is about. And so I was doing that, like just doing this preview of like what the vibe of the song is. And then I just started singing. And sometimes it's fun like that, where it's like, I'm just being goofy because I know how to laugh at myself. Even if nobody's in the room, I can entertain myself. And sometimes it's incredibly intimate with myself, where it's like, I really am writing about like maybe something deep and heartfelt that I'm going through. But it feels like my diary. Like when I'm creating by myself, that feels like I'm just kind of reflecting and just, whenever you write in your diary, you're not like, oh, I'm gonna write about this today. You're like, what is happening with you? That's what you write about. So for me, that's what I sing about when it's just me.
It's like therapy a little bit.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I'm sure it's good that you mentioned, there are like two different muscles, but I'm sure one informs the other, like the stronger you get in one, that really builds the other one up as well. So it's just a great skill to be able to have, and not a lot of people are able to write for others. So it's definitely a good tool to have in your toolbox. So you mentioned earlier that you are planning on releasing some music at the end of the year. We're already halfway through. What are some of the things that you want to accomplish before the year ends? Any specific projects or, an album that we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I mean, I really want to release something around August, September, probably a single. I'm really hoping to, if not get a project this year, in the first quarter of next year. I'm really just wanting to finish this year strong with creating more and allowing myself more creative freedom. Exactly like what you said earlier about how one muscle kind of helps strengthen the other. I really have been enjoying collaborating with new artists and just having fun again in music. After I Think That I Love You dropped, it was so amazing. And I got so much attention and so many new fans from it that I kind of was like, oh my God, like whatever I drop next has to be great, right? And I haven't dropped a single since that song. And I psyched myself out for a second. And it feels good though to now be back having fun. So I'm just really wanting to build a catalog of music, and hopefully I'll have something out for everyone by August, September, maybe. That's what I'm planning for.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely keep our fingers crossed. I'm excited. I'm definitely a huge fan of both your sound and the visuals that you create. So we're definitely going to stay tuned. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today. For everybody that's watching, where can they learn more about you?
You can find me on all social media platforms at zyahbelle, on all music platforms at zyahbelle. Like she said, if you really want to get to know me, you can follow me on Twitter.
The feeds are perfect. They're the best.
I've been getting into TikTok. I'm like, it's so bad. I have to get off of there. But yeah, I'm on all platforms, all social media platforms at zyahbelle. So yeah, check me out.
Yeah. Definitely a good follow on Instagram too. Your stories are always just hilarious.
Well, I'm gonna do my best to just enjoy myself on social media and not be so strict about everything needing to be content.
Yeah, and I think that that's actually like one of the best things. And I feel like me personally, as a fan, I'm able to connect with an artist more when they're being true to who they are, as opposed to just being promo. Like I have the song, listen to the song, check this out now. Like it's a lot better when I can get a sense of your personality, who you are as a person, and yeah, definitely love following you. So everybody make sure to go check her out. And Zyah, thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was wonderful.